Women still tend to earn less than their male counterparts.
From now on, we only will hire female professors? Is that a way forward?
Paper money and coins disappearing.
I wish I had this glass ball and I could tell you, and then I would be a very rich student. Hi folks, glad to be here. This is my colleague Professor Lewis. She's an expert in business communication at Nazarbayev University Business School.
And I'm here with my colleague Professor Konings, who's an expert in international economics. And we're ready to talk with you today, so let's get started.
Let's get started. There's this gender wage gap. Now you're an expert in this, aren't you? So what explains this really?
Discrimination, discriminatory practices, and also a system that is set up in ways that prevents women from moving forward, systemic barriers to the advancement of women. And there's some really interesting research that's coming out that looks at that on multiple levels, including societal levels and down to organizational levels, and then within the family as well, family reasons why women are not advancing to the top levels of their organizations. Paper money and coins disappearing and going to some sort of electronic currency or something else. What's your take on that? Where do you think we're going?
Absolutely. If you compare the situation now and say 10, 20 years ago, as people use far less paper money. So it's a trend. And so we all use plastic now. And actually the pandemic has contributed to that because at least in Europe, they said, oh, don't use paper money anymore because, you may pass on the COVID, right? So everybody started using paper money and now, plastic money. And now with the Wi-Fi, you can also do, just put your card on it and it's paid for. I think also with the electronic applications, the smartphones, nowadays people start paying with smartphones. So I think give it another 10 years and we hardly will be using paper money.
And what about cryptocurrency? You brought up the buzzword cryptocurrency. What do you think? Is it taking over? Are we moving forward with it?
It's a very complicated thing because cryptocurrency is not something controlled by central banks. And so central banks, they basically have, in principle, the monopoly right to create money. And all of a sudden you have now these miners, that's how they call them, right? They make this cryptocurrency and it's decentralized. And so, for instance, Bitcoin, that's one of the first cryptocurrencies, it's been used a lot in a number of transactions. The problem of those transactions, it's a little bit not transparent. And so it is known also that this cryptocurrency, this type of Bitcoin, is often also used by kind of illegal organizations, criminal organizations. So the purchasing power of cryptocurrency at this stage is not very stable. I call it more casino economics. And so not many people understand really the working of it. And a lot of people just buy it because they think, it will go up in price. And so it's pure speculation in my opinion. So, I'm not so convinced at this stage that it will take over me.
Where would we invest? Should we invest in dollars, for example, or in Kazakhstan in the local currency?
Yeah. That's why you want to diversify. You want a bit of money in American dollars, a bit in euros, a bit in tenge, and then you want to put that in deposits that it's fixed for 1 year, maybe in some bonds that's fixed for 5 years, and maybe some money you want to put in stock, so in shares. And so, for instance, in Kazakhstan, I notice not many people go on to the stock market, but if you're young, you should invest in shares on the stock market because often that return in the long run is quite good. We are now still in this COVID pandemic. How do you think this has affected women in the workforce?
Women maybe have been set back 5 to 10 years in their advances in the workplace. So think about that, a decade maybe lost in women's advancement toward equal pay, in women's advancement toward moving into higher level positions. More women had to take a step back during the pandemic. Children were at home, learning from home. Someone has to help them at home. And so typically that was a woman. And so women had to step out of the workforce, had to stay at home for a little while. And so that creates a gap in their advancement.
Jenifer, what are the top businesses for female entrepreneurs in your opinion?
Well, I think women are going into a number of interesting markets. We see social media really allowing a lot of women to open up businesses from their home. And a lot of those are targeting moms, mompreneurs, women who are, finding that they need something and that they can go into a business. They can create a business to provide whatever that is. I think women are also more and more advancing into science and creating some really interesting companies around science, around technology and advancements there. Women are really starting to kind of push into those markets that maybe they weren't in before. And so I think those might be some areas that women are really kind of opening up into. Or the top 5 niche markets right now?
Well, I think 3D printing is one. That's a very important one. It's really growing fast. I think biotech, especially also now with the pandemic, there's going to be an increased interest in all kinds of applications in biotech, including pharmacy. I think big data analytics. Actually, the school is actually very good in that. And so, but big data analytics is also an important niche. Increasingly, data are seen as the new gold or the new oil.
All right, so financial literacy. How would you recommend someone to become more financially literate?
Well, I would recommend the person to read financial journals, so the Financial Times or the Astana Times, follow the news, go to a bank and ask explanations. That's basic stuff. But I also think there's a big role for schools. Schools should also pay attention when they teach students, young students, kids, about what is a bank for, what is a mortgage, what's a bank account for, what are savings, how does the financial market work. That can already be taught to small children from 7, 8 years old. And so that's how it works.
What about sources of news? Where should people go to get their news if they want to stay up on economy and what's going on in the world?
Well, I tell my students always, I say, read The Economist, read the Wall Street Journal, read the Financial Times, and then I also say, watch television, watch the news, business channels, CNN, but also watch soap operas like Friends.
Yes.
I would say work hard, play hard. And you, Jenifer?
I think that's great advice. I would also say make sure that you're reading, make sure that you are staying up on news, and find something that makes you happy and do that.
Follow your passion.